Hello again. Thank you everyone for joining. We were just giving a few minutes for all of our panelists to be able to join, and we will go ahead and get started. We realize that Zoom is new technology for some of us and wanted to give everyone the opportunity to be able to join in. But my name is Amelia Lindy, and I am the Small Business Policy Manager for the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. And I am going to be hosting this webinar today. The webinar is part of our new Small Business Weekly webinar series, which is brought to you by the San Francisco Small Business Week Committee. San Francisco Small Business Week traditionally takes place during the first week of May, but as we all realize, gathering in such settings is not something that we're able to do right now. So we have pivoted, realizing that we need to bring resources to all of our small business community members immediately and right now. And so we have put on this webinar series to bring you pertinent topics at this moment. And our first webinar is focusing on financial options and considerations, primarily focused around the SBA loan programs, which we have all seen came out recently. First, I just want to say thank you so much to our presenting sponsor, Bank of America, who has held on with us through this wonderful pivot. They are responsible for making this program possible. I also want to thank our amazing community partners and Small Business Week committee members who have helped us pivot towards this new model. And so this first session, we're going to be welcoming a couple panelists. We'll hear a little bit of background and then start addressing questions from the public. And with that said, I just wanted to introduce you to our logistics team. So that is going to be Emma, who's running our webinar communications. So if you have chat, you want to engage with each other as participants, you can utilize that chat function. If you would like to ask a question to our panelists, and we did have a great number of questions submitted ahead of time, you can utilize the Q&A feature, which you'll see located at the bottom middle of your screen. Emma will then be fielding those questions towards me so I can bring them to our panelists. And don't have any fear. If there are any questions that we don't address today, we will follow up shortly after our webinar with direct answers to your questions and further resources. So up next, I would like to go over a little bit of housekeeping. This is new for everybody, and thank you so much for bearing with us as we go through this new process and new pivot for all of us. So all participants, you have been muted upon your arrival, and you'll be muted during the duration of the webinar. So we ask that you use those Q&A and chat features. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be distributed afterwards via a couple of different channels. You'll receive all of that information. And in future, for webinars, we are having different options for you to submit questions at a time, either during your registration process or via a form. So please go ahead and keep all of that in mind. All right, so this first session, we're covering some of the financial options and considerations, especially revolving around the SBA programs that we have. So this being said, there's a lot of different options that you should all be considering when you explore funding. And there's support at every level, from the city level with new loan programs like we just saw released this week, to grants from nonprofits and private companies. So feel free to tune in to Small Business Weekly resources, as well as the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, as we try to keep you up to date on what is available. So up next, I'd like to welcome our panelists. So our panelists are going to be Steve Mayer from SD Mayer. He is the managing partner and founder and a CPA. His firm has been working directly with small businesses to help get them started on this SBA funding journey. We are also very honored and grateful to have Julie Clowes from Small Business Administration. She is our regional director for those of us in the Bay Area. And then I am Amelia Lindy, and I am the Small Business Manager for the SF Chamber of Commerce, and I am our moderator today. So I guess I will turn on my video so you can all see where I am. Hello, everybody. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Steve to tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. Let's see if I will just need to go in one moment, Steve, and make your sound come back on. Thank you all for bearing with me as I learn this wonderful new technology. Steve, can we get a check 1, 2?
Yeah, I think you have me unmuted now.
We've got you. Go ahead and share with us. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Mayer, and our firm is SD Mayer and Associates. I've been a practicing CPA in San Francisco and a member of the Chamber of Commerce for over 40 years. And one of my claim to fame is when we started our 2 accounting firms, the first check that I wrote was my membership to the Chamber because I believed in it so much. We're about a 40-person firm. About a week and a half ago, we said we would help people with the PPP program. And since that time, we've been working with about 200 different companies, helping them submit all of their information to the various banks. And it's been quite a process, and it's been evolving and changing on a daily basis, as we're going to tell you about today. So thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing that and for joining us today. Up next, I'd like to welcome Julie Clowes. If you could tell us a bit about yourself, the Small Business Administration, and then maybe give us a brief overview so we understand the programs that we're talking about and answering questions on today.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you to the San Francisco Chamber for creating this platform. There's so much information that's out there, and there's a lot of different resources, so I think this is a fantastic way to help kind of funnel some of that information and direct people to the right sources of information, so I appreciate this. So as you can tell while there's always lots of different funding options from SBA, obviously today we're going to keep it focused on the COVID-19 related programs and new things that are out there. I do want to kind of give you a really quick overview for those of you who are not familiar with SBA. We are here based physically in San Francisco, but we actually cover from Santa Cruz all the way up to the Oregon border. So we have a wide territory, and that's where we're responsible for delivering SBA's programs and services. Obviously with COVID-19, I don't know if we want to go to the next slide, we have some new programs, and we have some enhancements to existing programs. So really quickly, I'm just going to kind of run through some of the things that are available so that you have this information. And then I know you have lots of questions and stuff, so I want to try to leave enough time to get to as many of those questions as we can. I will preface by saying that information is changing and being updated every single day. So I do recommend that people do check the SBA.gov website, and there'll be a couple more tranches of information on here that you don't have to scribble down furiously. I've told Amelia that we can share this information out, so you don't have to try to scribble down all the links and things that I'm talking about right now. What I'm going to talk to you about today is current as of the moment I'm speaking it, but there could be some additional updates and enhancements, and there's always new information coming out about these programs as we look to complete and continue implementing them. So real quickly, the kind of things that are available for COVID-19 relief, I put in 2 buckets: debt deferment and relief bucket, and then the loan bucket. I do like to point out the debt deferment or relief programs just to make you aware in case these apply to you. So if you have existing SBA disaster loans, maybe due to some of the wildfires or other flooding and other phenomena that have occurred in recent past, your loan has the payments have automatically been deferred through the end of this calendar year, through December 31st. That was automatic. You don't have to do anything to activate that. If you have existing debt through our 7A, 504, or our micro lending program, the lenders also have the ability to defer your payments. So I do encourage, if you have existing SBA debt, that you do talk to that lender and see about getting a payment deferral. And the third thing, and there's a SBA debt relief program, and this is brand new out of the CARES Act. So this has only been in place for a little over a week now. In this program, if you have an existing 7A loan, or if you intend or are seeking to take out a new 7A loan before September 27th, SBA will pay the principal and interest of these loans for a period of 6 months. So again, to tap into this one, please talk to the lender that issued your 7A loan, and the lender has gotten guidance from SBA on what they need to do in order to tap into this program on your behalf. So let's talk about the loans really quickly. There's kind of 3 different programs that exist right now, and just to make you aware, there is an Express Bridge Loan Program, which is available through SBA's Express lenders exclusively. It's for up to $25,000. It is a streamlined process for the banks, minimal paperwork, and the whole purpose behind it is a way to get at least some working capital out the door very quickly, and maybe use it as a bridge loan or a gap funding to carry you over until maybe other programs kick in, whether they be financing from SBA or another resource that you're trying to tap into. But the 2 big programs that I know everyone is going to have a lot of questions about are the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So the Paycheck Protection Program is part of the guaranteed lending programs that we have. It's brand new, obviously from the CARES Act. It's a guaranteed loan, so only way to access it is through a commercial lender. The SBA lenders, the already existing SBA lenders were all eligible to participate, but it was their discretion to whether they want to participate or not. Those who elect to participate can provide loans to cover up to 8 weeks of your payroll costs, and then select non-payroll expenses, and they include interest on mortgage, rent, and utilities. So again, it's up to 8 weeks of payroll costs, and payroll costs is not just wages or compensation. It also can include benefits. So if you offer healthcare benefits, for example, to your employees, or retirement, vacation, sick leave, any of those associated costs with providing those benefits can also be rolled into the definition of payroll costs, or to get you to the number of what your payroll costs would be. And then there's also the non-payroll expenses. So that's how you that's very quickly how you kind of look at the amount that you're eligible for in the program. The forgiveness piece, which I think is the more interesting point to this program, is that in order for your PPP loan to be forgiven, when we look at the total amount of the loan, at least 75% of that loan proceeds must be used to support payroll costs, and no more than 25% can be used to support those non-payroll expenses. So again, quick math, if your loan size is $100,000, at least $75,000 of that has to support payroll, and then the other 25% can support your interest on mortgage or rent or utilities. And that's to trigger the forgiveness piece of the loan. So kind of 2 different calculations, potentially could be the same, or they could be slightly different depending on your specific scenario. The Paycheck Protection Program does offer a 1% interest rate for a 2-year term. And the payments can be deferred for 6 months also. This is a program for the lenders. SBA is offering 100% guarantee. There's no collateral requirements. There's no personal guarantee required. And there's no fees that are charged to you as a borrower. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, to contrast, is a direct loan from SBA. So this is the one and only instance where SBA is authorized to still be a direct lender. So this program is 100% through SBA. If you've gone into our website and the portal, you can apply directly online. As we practice our good social distancing practices as well. We have the online portal to capture your information, your application. You should get a bounce back that says, when you submit, you should get an immediate response that says, your application has been submitted. It should give you a loan number. Then you know you're in the queue for loan processing. And then this program, because it's through SBA, you will get a response back directly from SBA, and they are going to use the email address that you submit on your application. So please make sure it's an email you check frequently. And then they will send you a link to do the closing documents, and they will disperse the funds directly to you through the US Treasury. Part of this program too, this program has been around for a while. It's meant to cover, it doesn't cover necessarily your business losses, but what it is meant to do is to cover your business needs. So to trigger this program, you have to be a small business or a nonprofit, and you have some sort of economic injury as a result of COVID-19, whether you just lost revenue, whether you had to close down completely because of the shelter-in-place orders. So you have some sort of economic injury. This loan is then a working capital loan that you can use to cover your ordinary business expenses. So it can include payroll and it can include rent, like the PPP, but it also can include all your other ordinary business expenses. So accounts payable, for example, if you have vendors or other things, people you still need to pay, this is the program that you can use those loan proceeds for those purposes. And the enhancement to this program that came about as a result of the CARES Act is this EIDL advance. And this is an advance of up to $10,000. And the way this program, to tap into both aspects of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, you're encouraged to use our online application. And as of March 30th, it became a new application online where you can just submit one application to trigger both pieces of this program if you're interested. So only one application, complete it, answer the questions online, and then you'll see a box at the end that says, would you like to be considered for the advance of up to $10,000? You can check yes, and you will be automatically considered for both. For those of you who may have applied for the EIDL program prior to March 30th, prior to the EIDL advance being available, you are not precluded from applying for the EIDL advance. Please go into the online application and complete it. And SBA will marry up your two applications on the back end. So don't worry, it will not jeopardize the processing that's taking place on your original application, but it puts you in the queue to get this EIDL advance as well. So that is one recommendation I have. If you have not gone back in to apply for it and you would like to be considered, please do so. Again, these programs, the EIDL Advance, the Paycheck Protection Program, and the SBA Debt Relief Program are all brand new as a result of the CARES Act. So I know there's a lot of different questions about them, and this is where I'm saying please check the SBA.gov website because we are pushing out new information pretty much every day, especially with regards to the PPP program, because I know there's a lot of questions that surround that. And a lot of those questions are very specific to your unique business circumstance. So I know we want to open up the lines to take some questions now, and then what we can't answer, work with Amelia to try to get you your answers as quick as we can. Oh, sorry, yes, my next two slides. Thank you, Becca. These are just quick ways to reach us. We are open for business, as are our resource partners, SCORE, SBDC, Women Business Centers, BBOX. Free business advisors available to you to help you through this process, whether you're looking for financing or you have other resources or other questions as well. Please reach out to SBA, to our partners, tap into us, and we will work with you, albeit via phone and email right now, maybe some more Zoom conferencing. And then the last slide, which we'll send out to you, is just a lot of the links and ways to reach us. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Amelia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. I found that overview really helpful, and I am seeing a lot of really great questions coming in right now. We've got a couple of them that are kind of, we have a few people asking the same thing, so I'm going to try and organize those a bit and make sure that we cover the broadest area that we can. And then again, we'll touch base on any of these questions that we don't get to address here today after the webinar, so have no fear. And you're always welcome to reach out to us at the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. If you have further questions, we can help you find those answers. So let's go ahead and get started here. I just wanted to hear a little bit about, we've got a lot of questions on the timeline, and I know the timeline is difficult. Obviously, it's really amazing how much the SBA has ramped up the volume over these last couple of weeks. But I have a lot of questions coming in, you know, about when they could expect to see the EIDL advance deposited into their account, when they might see progress on their loan, or what they should be expecting there. Could you address that at all, Julie?
Sure. I know this is such a crazy time, and we can't get money out fast enough to you. I fully realize that, and this is not to be an excuse, but the volume has been tremendous, and we are throwing, you know, all available resources at this to try to process these loans and get everything out to you as fast as we possibly can. For the PPP program, because that is run through the banks, my advice is I would check with your lender to see what kind of process they're following internally, and that can maybe give you a gauge as to their timeline. I do know PPP loans have been funded already, so they are moving through the system. So I would definitely double check with your lender. For the EIDL program, I do know, again, money is moving. Loans have been approved. Even the EIDL advanced loans are being approved. So I would just say, if you haven't heard back, you should be, you know, the communications are definitely on the uptick this week. There's a lot more lenders that are getting their notices from SBA this week. So again, please, first of all, check your email, and maybe check your spam filter. Hopefully things aren't getting caught there, but double check those to make sure. And if your EIDL, if you hadn't heard back on anything about your EIDL advance and you did elect that on your application, please, you can reach out to us in the district office. I would say, today is Wednesday. I would say if you haven't heard anything by Friday or Monday, you can reach out to us. I don't have direct access to that system, unfortunately, but I can try to elevate it to see if we can do a status check for you. But I would say, please give it till at least Friday or Monday, and then we can look back into it, because I know a lot of information is being communicated out this week.
Thank you, Julie. And I think along those lines, you said earlier that once folks submit their initial application on the SBA site, they should be receiving an automatic confirmation that their application was received. Is that for all of the programs? I saw a couple of questions about that.
That's for the EIDL and EIDL Advance, because that's our online application. So it'll be a pop. It should be like I don't know if it's actually a pop-up or a new screen, but as soon as you hit the submit, it should come up to you, and it'll have the loan. It'll say your application was successfully submitted or something to that effect. It'll have a number, and then the number should start with a 3. And then it should repeat your email address on the bottom of that and show you that that's what they received, and that's how they're going to communicate with you. So I would just double check that. And then make sure you hold on to that number, whether you take a screenshot or write it down or something, because that's the number that makes it easier for our loan analyst to find you in the system. So rather than searching by your name.
Awesome, thank you. I had seen that question pop up a couple of times, so I wanted to confirm. I have a few questions here from our community on eligibility, and folks who are asking questions on Q&A and chat. I'm addressing a few of the questions that came in that were pre-submitted for the webinar, in case you don't see those coming through yet. So I've had a couple of questions I've seen about whether sole proprietors or those who are self-employed or contractors are eligible for any of these programs or the PPP program. And if you could expand a little bit on how payroll calculations would work for that, for those kind of people.
Right. So for the PPP program, all of the above that you just mentioned are eligible. And for both programs, actually, your form of business, sole proprietor on up through C Corp, doesn't matter. As long as you're a small business or a nonprofit, you will be eligible. Where it does get a little trickier is if you're not actually a business and you're a 1099 contractor. So under PPP, the rule does state that you are eligible to apply for the program directly as a 1099 contractor. And so as a sole proprietor, you're also eligible for both EIDL or PPP. The calculations, if I do encourage, if you haven't looked at the rule that's up on our website, to take a look. It does have the definition of payroll costs in much greater detail than I even covered, and it does break it out, and it does have some sample calculations. The one calculation that is not on there that people do ask about is the sole proprietor. That is one thing. If you read the definition of payroll costs, it does talk about looking at your, income and the things that you report on, the way you report on your tax return as the baseline for payroll costs. So I do encourage you to read that. There is a question out there for owners that maybe take a salary, but then also take a draw from the business. How do we calculate that? That one is a question that we are waiting for clarity, a little bit more clarity on. So I don't want to speculate right now. I'd rather wait till we get the advice so that I can best inform you, and I don't want to give anybody bad information right now. But that is one of the questions that is should be updated hopefully on our website, hopefully very soon. So we're putting up new questions, like these kinds of questions, I think FAQs are going up daily on the site to try to add additional clarity around the PPP program in particular.
Awesome, thank you, Julie. And we will be sharing all of our questions that we received, because I can tell folks that I've received about 90 to 100 questions so far between my 3 different platforms. So I'm just going to try and cover our real hot topics here. Steve, if I could ask you, could you give us a little bit of guidance, because there are all of these different programs, both with SBA and also other potential options folks could consider. What would you tell small business owners that they should be considering when they decide whether or not to apply for different programs?
Well, first of all, I think everybody should apply. So there, programs are out there. There's a question of whether or not your business has been hurt. And the general feeling is that every business has been hurt. So I would think that answer is yes to start with. If you are approved and you have any reservations, you can always not take the money. So, but getting the process going. What we tell people, and again, we're working with about 200 different companies, that the first thing to do really is to find out whether your bank is eligible. And if your bank is eligible, then proceed to step 2. If your bank is not eligible, you have to find a bank that's eligible. Because the banks have been getting such a overwhelming response, a lot of them are not taking new accounts. And so you're going to have to look and search and figure out to find a bank that is going to be acceptable. Once you're sort of got, you're in the loop, the next thing is to be incredibly organized. Again, as we're working with people, we have 50% of the people who are completely organized. They send us exactly what we ask them to send. And the other 50% are not organized, and they send one piece of paper at a time. And it's clear that they really don't even know all of the things. So we tell people, if you were in business all of last year, 2019, then get your financial statement and summarize all your payroll costs up to $100,000 per person. That includes workman comp, it doesn't include the FICA tax, but it includes a lot of medical benefits, dental, all of that type of stuff. Then you have to have the documentation. So you have to have copies of people's W-2s, You have to have copies of your 940, 941s. Those are the IRS forms, either on a quarterly or an annual basis. They're going to be asking you for your driver's license. They're going to be asking you for your articles of incorporation. They're going to be asking you for your operating agreement if you're an LLC. So having all of this stuff ready to go and organized is going to make it very easy either for the bank to take you on or for you to work with somebody like our firm who's trying to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for addressing that. And we are past 11:30 now at this time, but we have had so many questions roll in. I'd like to stay on and address a few more of them, if that's okay with our panelists. And for folks who don't stay on, have no fear. I'll say again, we are going to be distributing the recording from this webinar after it has finished up. So if you need to jump off, that is okay. So Julie, I just wanted to ask, one question that has been coming up a whole lot here is that folks are going into their financial institution to apply for these programs with them for a couple of different things, and finding that either they've reached capacity or perhaps there's restrictions on whether you're already a customer or have a certain type of account or something. Is there any guidance that SBA is working on currently for that piece, or is that something that the community should maybe step up and come together to work on as well?
Sure. There's probably several different things to mention here. I will say that I definitely I hear you. I've heard this from many people, and so one of the things we're doing is trying to even here in Northern California, even just gather our own intelligence to see what the banking community is doing or able to do, and see how we might be able to push that information out to you to make it a little easier. There is a tool on SBA.gov. It's you type in your zip code and it's supposed to help you find a PPP lender. I do realize that, the information is changing and sometimes hourly depending on the different bank scenarios. So I will caveat that tool is not necessarily updated in real time. So there might be some banks on there that are no longer able to participate for whatever reason. But that is one way to help you whittle down the list of potential lenders or potential candidates for you to approach. The other thing that SBA is actively doing is we are actually onboarding new banks to participate solely in this PPP program. So that is something that there have been a lot of different lending institutions that have expressed interest in participating, and we are doing an expedited process through our headquarters in DC to onboard those banks as quickly as possible so that you as potential borrowers have some additional resources to tap into as well. So I would say keep looking at SBA.gov to see what additional information we push out. I know we're trying to make that information available as public, make it public as soon as we're able. But yes, we'd love to work with Chambers and some of our other partners to help get information out to people as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think because I've seen the question come up so much, it's something where our community and our other service partners out there in the San Francisco Bay Area could potentially contact some of our financial institutions. I will take it upon myself. I'm going to work on it. And if I can get together more of a comprehensive list or some understanding, we will get that distributed to folks. Thank you for raising those questions. So then I would like to address a couple of these questions that have come in, which I haven't already covered. I did have a question about a kind of specific eligibility question. If I am a small business owner and I have 2 partners in my business, but they are undocumented immigrants. However, I am a US citizen. Am I still able to apply for any of this funding?
I guess by partners, I would say, does that mean ownership interest, and we'll look at the percentage of that interest. So the that's probably not a simple question as it may sound. I'm happy to talk to that specific person offline to get the more details about their business structure and all of that to answer the question. But chances are, yes, you will be eligible, but I would like to know more specific details, and we can talk about that offline.
Great. I took that risk realizing that that was an awfully specific question, but to that individual, I will follow up with you offline. Also, I have a question here that's popped up a few times about specifically, I know you mentioned the calculation sheets that are available online, but a lot of people have asked how is the EIDL loan amount that they would receive? What is that related to in terms of their business, the amount that they end up with?
Yes, so it's when you go into the online application, you will just be asked a series of questions, and it'll be things like entering, your revenue from the past year, looking at, cost of goods sold, if that's applicable to your business, number of employees, and a couple other revenue-related questions. And then the SBA loan analysts will actually go through and do a calculation to try to determine your business need, pretty much like on a monthly basis. They'll kind of take the 12 months worth of data, divide by 12 to get 1 month's worth of information, and then have a multiplier on that. So I know that's not super specific to answer the question, but it is a formula that they have that they will run through. And that's a good point to point out. When you do fill out the EIDL application, the one thing you'll see missing is a box that says, how much are you applying for? And it is because they're going to look at the financial data that you self-report. And if they need to verify any questions, when the loan analyst is going through it, they will reach out to you and ask for either clarification or maybe a supporting document if they need it. But they're going to rely on what you put in the application and your self-certification, and that's how they're going to make the loan amount decision.
Great, thank you. And so I'm kind of fielding through a couple of questions. For folks who have a very specific situation, I'm acknowledging those questions, and I will follow up with you offline and make sure you can find that information you need. I just wanted to ask, I think because we're going to try and wrap up around 11:45, I'm going to ask Steve, if you could share with us, I know you've been working with hundreds of businesses across the Bay Area on getting these processes started. Do you have any key takeaways or pieces of advice that you want to share with our small business community now? And if not, of course, folks, we will direct you to how to get in touch with SD Mayor and other organizations afterwards.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear somebody say, be patient, hang in there, be tough, because I know people need the money. But if you can have a direct one-on-one conversation with whoever you're dealing with at the bank and have a honest, discussion about where you are in the process, what other documents do they need. A lot of the banks have this big online system, and you send your stuff in and you get an email back that says, yeah, we have everything. And you think it's being processed, but the bank has 10,000 of these and they got 4 people working on it. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I suspect in the next week, there'll be a lot of stuff will end up happening. So hanging there and being organized, making sure they have all the right documents is probably a good first step.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And then, Julie, is there anything else you would like to share before we start to wrap up?
I would just tell businesses that, as Steve has suggested, it's really taking a look at what your financial needs are and where those expenses lie, and hopefully that information can help you figure out which of these programs or combination thereof is going to be the most beneficial to you. I mean, not the PPP program's getting a lot of publicity, but it's not the only program that's out there. And, we didn't even have time to go into state programs or other local programs, but there's a lot of different programs that might suit you better than PPP. But again, it's based on what your specific financial needs are and what you're looking to cover. And again, tap into the resources that are out there. Steve and his team sounds like they're really working with people. Our business advisors, SBDC SCORE, they're ready to help you. You don't have to sit there and try to figure this all out by yourself. You can tap into these resources to help you too.
Thank you so much, Julie and Steve. If we could put up our closing slides, I have a bit more information to share with everyone. Something that's become evident today is that we need to cover a little bit more on this topic and now maybe branch into some of the other resources available. So we will get something to you all to expand further, and just stay tuned for that. So here is the contact information for everyone who joined us today, including Becca Bloom, you can see at the end, from BB Events. She's helping us manage this program. And if you have questions about upcoming programs, you can feel free to reach out to her. Again, all of this information will be sent out afterwards. And then if you want to advance, we have our next weekly webinar, which will be taking place Wednesday, April 15th at 11 a.m. We will send out a link if you would like to register. This is going to be on legal considerations for small businesses. So the questions you should be asking and thinking about right now, as well as some answers to your questions, a similar kind of format that we're doing today. We will have 5 attorneys here for you, which is kind of a unique thing to have access to. And again, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time. So thank you again to our panelists. Thank you so much to Bank of America for presenting this programming, all of our partners in the Small Business Week Committee. And as always, feel free to reach out with further questions for any of us, and we will follow through on the questions that we received today. Thank you all so much for your participation, and hang in there and have a good rest of your week.